Welcome back. Welcome back. We are on episode 52 of Let Your Words Count. I'm Gary Gant here with Ethan Merriweather.
Yo.
Brother James Cole here with us once again.
Present.
Yeah, all right. All right. We love it. We love it. How you all doing today?
Pretty good.
Great.
That's good. That's good. Anything new? Any praise reports?
No, just happy to be here, man.
Absolutely.
We're going to spin this episode off from the last episode,
Yeah.
Hope. So,
Yep.
you know, we're kind of excited about getting into that to see what everybody's talking about.
Absolutely.
This word.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Sounds good. Brother Cole, how are you feeling today?
Well, I'm doing good.
That's good.
I'm doing. Yes, I am. The snow, I didn't believe it was going to happen.
I know, right?
You know, even though they say it's going to happen, but you know, they've been wrong so many times.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. We've been a long time since we had snow stick in Michigan this early
Yeah.
in the year. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But it's all good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, well, family, today we're going to jump into our word for episode 52. And as Ethan said, we were on hope last time. And so today we're going to kind of springboard from that, and we're going to talk about faith today. The word faith. All right. So if we can throw up our definition for faith, faith is complete trust or confidence in someone or something. It can refer to spiritual belief, but also to confidence in life, love, or one's own inner strength. Once again, faith is complete trust or confidence in someone or something. It can refer to spiritual belief, but also to confidence in life, love, or one's own inner strength. All right, and from there we will jump into the etymology and the derivation.
All right. Oops. All right, so the etymology is from Latin fides, meaning trust, belief, confidence, very close to hope. Related to fidere, to trust. In its earliest sense, faith was about loyalty, fidelity, and steadfastness, keeping one's word or promise.
Very good.
And we're going to do our lens here. So our emotional lens, the feeling, positive, negative. The positive side is peace, confidence, courage, assurance. So it's very, very close to our last episode of hope. And the negative side is blindness, denial, or disillusionment when misplaced. Okay? And why? Because faith requires surrender. It invites hope and trust, but can also feel vulnerable or uncertain.
Interesting.
So, what do you guys think about that?
The part with the word surrender. Could you read all of that, but in particular the word surrender? Because that one caught me by surprise.
Oh, it did surrender. Okay, yeah. So this one says for negative, the positive is peace, confidence, courage, and assurance. The negative side is blindness, denial, or disillusionment when misplaced. Why? Because faith requires surrender. It invites hope and trust, but can also feel vulnerable or uncertain. You have a thought on that?
Okay. I know that was the words that you just read and not yours personally, but just for a moment, can we talk about why someone would think faith in the negative, the word surrender, is part of it? Because I guess I'm not seeing it.
Interesting.
I don't see how surrender fits with one's faith not being realized.
I think if I can jump in there, and that's a really, really good point. I think if you think about surrender, meaning surrendering who you are in that moment, like not allowing not allowing you to be distracted. So your surrendering is surrendering your doubts, surrendering those hindrances that will cause you not to move forward in that regard. Does that make sense? But they're saying that in a negative, right?
They're saying it in a negative. And it sounds like
Here, let me
to
read that.
use the word surrender with respect to your expectations through faith not being realized, I guess I'm struggling with the word because it seems like the understanding is when you have faith in a thing, you've already surrendered.
Yes. Let's read it one more time.
Okay.
So why? Because faith requires surrender. And that's the issue that you're having, right?
Right. Let's stop there. So
All right.
faith requires you to surrender to what? Okay. Now I know I'm not talking about a specific thing that you have faith in. I know we're talking in a broad or general. So if I have faith, I'm trading my faith for something that I'm giving up. Is that what the implication is here? And once again, I know none of us here on this panel are saying we aren't the ones that wrote that, but I'm just trying to understand. So the understanding by someone is when you have faith, when you put your faith out there, if you will, that means you're surrendering something. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm trying to understand what it is that you're surrendering.
I think in my mind, both for today's word as well as for last week's word, I think it's a couple of things. I think that the surrender is surrendering trust that someone else is going to do their part of an agreement. But I think there's also an empowerment aspect to it, because to have faith or hope in someone or something, it's almost like saying, okay, there's a part of your destiny or your future that is in the hands or that is going to be subject to somebody else's actions or behaviors or whatever, right?
Okay.
So I think that in that regard, if you're trusting that, or if you're having faith that someone's going to do something that you're looking for, you're hoping for, the surrender is, I don't have the amount of control to make sure this thing happens like this other party may. That's kind of how I view it.
Okay.
You're accepting that this person or whatever has stake in your future, and you, to a degree, and that's why I kind of say like the empowerment side of it is saying like I'm relying on some other party to do something that I don't feel I can do. I think it's kind of where it's coming from with that, in my mind anyway. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I love the word that you use, which is empowering, mm-hmm. because really I look at faith that way. Mm-hmm. It's empowering. Mm-hmm. Now, I understand, and we all understand, that when we talk about faith, we're talking about something, to your point, beyond our ability.
Yes.
In other words, we may not be able to bring the thing to pass, mm-hmm. but we have full confidence mm-hmm. that the thing will come to pass. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's why I'm saying with that, I'm struggling with the word surrender, but I don't want to make our whole discussion about the word surrender, though.
This is good. This is what we need to look at it, because it's a part of the process, right? This is good because it made me think about, as you were talking, I was thinking about a form. I was thinking about surrendering. So I look at pouring concrete on steps, mm-hmm. right? You have to build the form first. When you build that form, you pour the concrete. Once that concrete solidifies and cures, mm-hmm. there's no need for the form. It surrenders, right? So that's kind of like how I'm looking at it. You use faith requires a surrender. That means that whatever's been poured out can be released.
Okay, so then the surrender
or letting go.
So the surrender would take place whether it's faith is fulfilled or not.
Keep going.
Correct? I mean, in other words, I can understand where surrender is part of the process of faith, mm-hmm. whether faith is validated or whether faith is not fulfilled. To me, if the surrender part being, with the example you just used, you're going to pull the forms away anyway. Mm-hmm. And if it's successful, the stair holds and there's no problem.
Correct.
If it's not successful, it'll either collapse, you'll find that it's slanted or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. But if the form is the surrender, meaning we take it away, then I'm thinking that's part of the process regardless of the outcome. And so that's why I was wondering why whoever wrote this was focusing on the surrender on the negative part. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think surrender was on the negative. I think surrender
Yeah.
was on like the conclusion that came after. So I think because we read it, and I don't think it was maybe showing up on the screen, but like the negative part was the I don't know if you want to pop it back up again.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
It was a break in the idea.
Okay.
So that part that said surrender was like in the conclusion underneath so like the why, right? Why is there this positive or this negative side? And I think it's saying because faith requires surrender, that's why it can either have this positive aspect of hope and trust,
Yep.
or it can feel vulnerable and uncertain if there is negativity or faith placed in something that maybe doesn't deserve it or hasn't earned it.
Okay.
Right. So I think that's what it is.
All right. Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad we talked that through.
Yeah.
I'm
But
good.
that was good
No,
though.
we need to. No, that's awesome.
Yep,
That's awesome.
that's good.
And I think that when we talked about hope last time, it actually we went down a very, very important path in my mind, because you started talking about your experience of entrepreneurship and different things like that. Is it possible, and I don't want to put you on spot or anything like that, is it possible to tie in that with faith right now? If that's something that you want to do, or do you want to go another direction with this?
I can, but I look at faith as something different than the definition that we were given. But I think it.
Absolutely.
But I do think that faith and hope are companion concepts,
Yeah.
right? I think they're related. I think they're different ways to say something similar. But I think like hope is again. I'm like we talked about the other week, right? It's a belief in something that's been promised to you, and a belief that thing that you're expecting or wanting is worth it, even if it means you're going through something that feels unfortunate or feels like it's contrary to what you have. And I think faith is, because I hear faith always described as like a belief. I think it's more than that.
I agree.
I don't think it's just a belief in something. I think it goes beyond. So I think hope is one of those beginning steps. I found a source that I'm trustworthy. I'm trusting in and believing for something that's been said or promised to me. And then I think faith kind of goes into what you do as a result of that hope or that belief.
You know, let's talk about, if you don't mind me taking it this way.
Yeah.
You don't just arrive at faith,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
So then, therefore, there are components. In my mind, I think about it this way. There are components of faith, because those components will result in you saying, now I have faith.
Yes.
Okay? And so I was thinking one of the components is information. Because if you don't have the information, what are you basing faith on?
Yes.
Okay? Information, whether it's knowledge that's been given to you, it could be experiences that you had. Okay, I think those are the two main ones, but you know, there could be other ways. But in other words, you have to have something to look at to make a decision that I'm going to put my confidence in this, expecting an outcome that hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
The confidence that I have is based on the information that's given, my own understanding or interpretation of that information, and based on my confidence level in that, I therefore will say, okay, you can take it to the bank. I expect this to happen.
Right.
So, as we already know, faith is, and it was spoken of already in the definition, faith is not necessarily a spiritual thing. You know, we drive across a bridge, and of course we have confidence. Some of their confidence is we've seen it on TV. We were passionate when we were kids, have experience driving across bridges. So therefore, I'm driving across this bridge. I have every confidence that it's going to hold up. Okay. Is that faith? Well, yes, it is. Okay. But then the things that are not as, we would say, as assured. What just popped into my head is at work, sometimes when you have an outing at work, you have the stand and fall backwards, and then we're going to catch you.
Trust
right?
fall.
Right, the trust fall. Thank you. That left me. So now you may have even heard of it before. So going in, you know what the trust fall is. So then, but even with that, you have to make a determination. Who am I with?
Yes.
Will they catch me? Or the people that I work with, are they jokesters? And therefore, yeah, it's all lighthearted and good fun, but they may not catch me.
That's right.
And then they may have a good laugh about it.
That's right.
Okay? So then now I have to determine whether I have the confidence in them overcoming their tendency to joke and have fun and actually make sure I don't hurt myself. Because in their mind, they may figure, yeah, you may fall this laugh, he may bump his head, but then he's going to be good. So therefore, it's worth a good laugh to let Gary fall. Okay, let James fall.
Right.
So my confidence and my faith is going to be based on not only the information, because in this case, the information is, these are the rules. You stand and then you fall backwards. We're going to place these people here, and we've instructed them to catch you. That's the information we all have. Right. But then, as I've just explained, we determine whether we're going to put confidence in them for whatever reason doing it. And so sometimes the best the best response is to not have confidence. Okay? Because you know who the people are that you're dealing with. Okay? So then would that be a bad thing? I don't have faith that you guys are going to catch me. So is the lack of faith a bad thing? Well, no.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So then what I'm getting at is faith is neither good or bad. It's what the conclusion you come to based on the information that's been provided. Some people, I believe, misuse the word faith, and because what they're really doing is saying, I have a desire for this outcome. Well, what is that desire for this particular outcome based on? Well, if the particulars, the components, if you will, of what I say I have faith in, it's not strong, then I may call it faith, but then in reality, it's weak faith, it's little faith, it's poor faith, whatever adjectives we want to put in front of it. So I'm glad we're talking about this, because faith isn't just faith always a good thing. Sometimes it's a good thing to conclude I shouldn't have faith. But it's because you've gone through the process of evaluating the components and then making a good decision as to whether I should have confidence or not.
Absolutely right. That's good. That's good.
I love it.
So and that's where the negative side comes in, is that if you've going through those steps, those checks, if you will, if I find that, okay, this person has said they're going to do something, but I don't find this person trustworthy, or I don't know this person, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to just, commit and give in to a belief in what this person says, then, that's where that's where the negative side of faith can come in, because now I've given trust to someone that doesn't deserve it or hasn't earned it, and they may misuse my faith in them, right, or take advantage of me in some way.
So I think in what you just said, it's only, I'm not even sure if I would even use the word negative in that instance. I would say in this situation, you're not trustworthy.
Gotcha.
Okay? You're not trustworthy. I think the only word that may apply as negative faith is faith based on something that's not empirical, not reality. It's just a pipe dream, as we would say. Okay?
Interesting.
my football team is 1-7 so far this season, but I have every confidence that they're going to rally and they're going to make it into the playoffs and they're going to win the championship. Okay, well, in that instance, it's more so my desire for them to get there than anything factual, knowledge, information, health of the player, strength of schedule. I may look at all of that and say, yeah, but I think they're still going to win. So I have faith they're going to win.
And that's where I start to struggle with the definition, because and again, same conversation we had with hope. We use that word faith for that kind of situation, like you're saying. But I think, like hope, faith is requiring like an agreement of some sort between at least two parties, like some kind of commitment or covenant that you do this, I'll do this kind of thing. And we'll apply faith to, I have faith that my football team is going to do this, but your football team hasn't promised you anything. They haven't spoken to you directly to say, we'll sign this contract with you, James Cole, and say we're going to win this. There was no covenant, no agreement on their side. This is just you having wishful thinking. Versus, to me, faith and hope comes into play where there is some kind of, you do this and then I'll do this. There's like an agreement between two parties of something that's going to be done, right? And without having, I guess, like in that component you talked about, like for knowledge or information, it would have to be knowledge or information that I am going to do this. Okay, if you said you're going to do this, I believe you and I believe those words. There I have faith or hope in the thing that you've said. But if there's nobody speaking to me and telling me, I'm going to keep my side of the agreement here, and I'm going to do this, and you do this. If that part is not there, and nobody has said or promised you anything or agreed to do anything, I don't think faith and hope are the appropriate words to use in those situations, right?
Which is why, and we've all been in church, and sometimes when we're dismissing, someone quotes a scripture, may the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another, right? And they don't realize that was based on no trust, no confidence. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, it had to do with Jacob and, not Jacob.
I thought it was Jethro. Wasn't it?
No. It was Laban
Laban,
and who was it that married Leah and Rachel? I forget how. I know
Jacob.
them. Jacob. Okay, I was right in the first place. Okay,
Laban and Jacob. Yeah.
Jacob did not trust that Laban would hold to his part, and so then when they separated, he said, "The Lord's going to watch between us to see who's going to do what they said they're going to do." That was an instance of no faith. Okay, no confidence. So Jacob was making the right decision based on experience that he had.
Very good.
So therefore, he was, I would say, justified in having question and therefore not having faith in Laban doing what he said he was going to do.
Perfect.
Because the best example was, hey, I'm thinking I'm getting Rachel and I get Leah. And so then now you say you're going to do this? Fool me once, shame on me.
That's right. That's right.
I love it.
Absolutely right.
So as far as thinking about the proper way to use hope and faith, you guys think we've missed it? What do you guys think about that? Do you think we've missed it in some way? I mean, or have we made it smaller than what it could?
I think it gets overused. I think faith gets overused, and it gets used in the areas of hope without firm data saying that hope is supported. I think so.
Explain that a little bit. Say that one more time. I got it. That was pretty good.
Okay. I think that the word faith, just like the word hope, gets either overused or gets used out of the context of what the word actually means. Okay. So then when we say I have faith, okay, sometimes it's really just I have a strong desire that you do what you said you're going to do. So going back to the example with Laban and Jacob, Jacob could have said, well, because you're my father-in-law, I don't think you're going to do me like that again. So therefore, I have confidence that you're not going to do to me what you did again. Now, is that well-founded confidence? That may more so be a willingness to be nice, a willingness to say, I'm going to give you the credit of doing right this time. without data to say I should do so.
Very good. Okay, so the thought that I was thinking in my mind, while you were talking, both of you guys were talking, I was thinking about that. I think that a very important component that faith should be operating with is relationships.
Okay.
Because if and the relationship is the experiences that you had with that thing outside of you or the information that's received. Because if you look at scripture does say faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. Mm-hmm. So understanding that information, that data, that experience or whatnot, then you've built some type of form of characterization or evidence or relationship to have the confidence in order to use that, in order to use faith properly. You understand what I'm saying? Faith has always been like one of those interesting words to me. Not only a word, but an actual operation. It's a tool, right? It's a tool that God has given us to use and to utilize. And when I thought about the relationship, you talk about Laban, you talk about Abraham. There was a relationship builder in order for them to get to a certain point. Even Moses, there was a relationship that had to be established before he. I mean, look. I mean, if you look at him going to the burning bush, you know what I'm saying? I mean, different things. There was a relationship that was building there. But the thing is, what's valuable about, even with Laban, when you brought that situation up, and you're talking about from a negative side. And that's why I have an issue with the negative side of faith, right? I don't know if that even sounds right.
Right. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
I think it's more speaking to the outcome.
Yeah. The outcome. Yeah. So would that, because see, a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about harmony and we were talking about dissonance, right? So I don't think that there's any dissonance in faith. I think that faith is harmony, but with faith is not comfortable. It's not meant to be comfortable. Why? Because there's a process in it. You know what I mean? There's because there's a lot of faith is a journey, man.
Faith is a
go
journey.
ahead.
But I'd actually jump in and say the opposite. I think faith is not, okay, I see what you're saying as far as faith not meant to be comfortable. Because, okay, I get that part.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay. I know I didn't say what I was going to say, but.
No, I want to see what you want to say. Not.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I said faith isn't uncomfortable, I was looking at it from the standpoint of when our faith is well founded, then we actually have confidence, even though the thing hasn't come to pass yet. But I know what you are referring to is the adjustments that one has to make within themselves to get to that point. Okay?
Yes.
So I definitely understand that. And that's why, for example, with and I mentioned this before, I think, in our last episode, with respect to Abram and Sarah. It was uncomfortable for them because they were challenged with something that they didn't believe was going to take place in the first place, or could take place. But then God dealt with their, what we call faith, so that it lined up with where God wanted them to be. Faith, you can have every confidence that something's going to come to pass, but that doesn't mean it's going to come to pass. For example, we all know the story in the Bible about when Elijah went up against the, 400 prophets of Baal? And I tell people from time to time, those prophets had faith. They had faith. They had every confidence that the God that they said was there would do what they expected him to do. Every confidence. But of course, we know based on what the Bible says, that confidence, that faith was not rewarded. Okay? And you can say that's a negative thing, but then, we talk about the 3 Hebrew boys thrown in a fiery furnace. They said, well, even if God doesn't do it, I know that he can. So then were they saying they doubt that God? So in that situation, I'm sort of throw that out there.
Right.
Was that a lack of faith, or was it a confidence that God could do whatever, but then God has a choice to do whatever He chooses to do, and then we just submit to it?
I was gonna say, I mean, you hit the nail on the head as I was talking about a discomfort.
Okay.
That's I think that the story of the three Hebrew boys and the event alone, it's a lot to unpack with that, right? But if we look at it from a faith standpoint, I think that they did have confidence in the moment. You put it like this, you would have to be there.
Okay.
You would have to be there, but they didn't allow. In my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that they allowed the circumstance to detour their faith in what God was able to do.
Right, because I think in that situation, their faith was not in personal deliverance. That's not where their faith was. Their faith was in the ability of the God that they serve to do whatever that God chooses to do, and they'd be okay with it. They weren't looking necessarily for personal deliverance. I'm sure they wanted personal deliverance. I'm sure they weren't suicidal and wanted to be burned up. But that's not because if they put their confidence in, I know God's going to get me out of this situation, well, then they wouldn't have said, but if He doesn't, I know He's well able. So then now the question is, what is your confidence in? Because our confidence in a particular thing can be self-serving. I trust in God if He does this for me. I trust in God if He does that for me. So then therefore, if the this or the that doesn't happen, then where are you with respect to your confidence or your faith? So that's another layer. What are our expectations? And do our expectations line up with to what Gary mentioned earlier, that aspect of the outcome that is not within our control? Do we understand the facts of the situation, and in this case, God, so that we in our own mind aren't putting Him in a box by saying, well, you're validated if you do this thing here? Or are you like the three Hebrew boys? I'm not going to box God in by saying God has to deliver me from the fire. My confidence is He can do whatever, and whatever He chooses, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so with that thought, that's where the surrender comes. And
Okay.
that's where the surrender comes.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? But that surrender is not a negative thing. That surrender is regardless of what happens to me. Like regardless what the outcome is going to look bleak or whatnot. I think that today, the day that we're up against, I think us as humans and the decisions and choices that are being made, rather in this country, across other countries, politically, spiritually, socially, or whatnot, I really think that we should start arming our mind and our hearts for a impact. And if we're not doing that, and just, I'm not trying to go off the subject of faith, but I am talking about just having confidence and belief in God to a point where, regardless what comes your way, that you I don't know. I know what I want to say, but I'm trying not to offend. Put it like that.
Yeah, but see that. Yeah. Yes, I think I hear you, Gary. Were you about to say something? Yeah. Okay. That's where I'm going back to when I talked about the components of faith. What is the basis of your faith? And so since we've entered God into the conversation, if we don't know the God that we say we serve, the way that He has presented Himself to us. In other words, the knowledge that God has put out there, He wants us to utilize, because that's the basis of faith. So therefore, if we have been negligent and we don't know the God that we put our trust and confidence in, then we are opening ourselves up to having little faith, as Jesus said, or no faith. Why? Because we're basing it on something that might be general, I believe in God, but then it's not specific enough to know that this same God that you believe in, this is his standard of operation. You're believing him based on your own standard of operation. So then, therefore, when
Very
the thing doesn't come to pass, then now you've allowed doubt to enter in. But that doubt was based on your misunderstanding of the one that you say you're putting your confidence in.
Very good. Very good. And I think that goes back to, and once again, I do want to touch back on this about surrendering.
Okay.
You know, and I'm not trying to stay there or anything, but I do believe the surrendering doesn't mean not to do anything at all.
No.
Okay. All right.
No.
I want to make that very clear, because when a lot of people say surrender, they just say, surrender me and just take me away. No, it's
Calgon, take me away, right?
yeah. So the surrendering is like going back. I surrender myself so I can know the will and the plan of the Eternal One.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There comes a point where I will step in with my thoughts, which is not bad. A lot of times people will say, it's not true. No, God still requires your participation.
Yes.
And that's the key. It's like when you surrender, it doesn't mean that you don't do anything at all. I believe when the three Hebrew boys, when they surrendered their thoughts, it actually activated something. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I mean. It's a very, very hard concept to understand. But once again, it's about that relationship, that was built prior to that. If they didn't have that relationship prior to the fire, what would they cling on to? You see what I'm saying? And that's kind of what I'm saying.
And that's why
faith
is foundational. I don't know if we say that a lot, but it's based on the one that you put your confidence in, or the situation that you put your confidence in, and your knowledge of what you're putting your confidence in.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, like I said, we can reach conclusions and then therefore have expectations that are not consistent. And that's where the danger is.
Go ahead, G. What are you about to say?
I wasn't about to say anything. I'm listening to you all.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack in this one, man.
Abraham, by this time, when he was going to, put his own son and sacrifice his own son, talk about a test of faith. He had to have confidence, and of course, the scripture doesn't give us any insight into his mind other than God will provide. So I don't know if he figured that the angel would stay his hand, so to speak, or whether he thought that, I don't know what he would have thought, okay? But he had confidence that the one that he had to go through changes himself in order for this one, the son of promise, to be here. And then the same God that he finally put his confidence in the way that God would have him to, now tells him, now go ahead and kill him. Mm-hmm. Makes no rational sense. Mm-hmm. None whatsoever. So then he had to make a decision, and I believe his decision was foundational, based on the knowledge that he had obtained of God. Therefore, even though what I'm hearing sounds crazy, but yet the God that I'm serving has proven himself in such a way that I can put confidence in him, regardless of what he's asking me. Same difference as people would say when Jesus said, unless you eat of my body and drink of my blood, that's crazy talk. That is literally crazy talk. And of course, it's not even possible that everybody could have done that. So it's not possible. It's not physically possible.
Not enough to go around.
Yum, 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 yum.
Nom, nom, nom. Right.
So, the knowledge that they had in that time had to be on the information, or the components that they had was their expectation based on their understanding of the scripture, a Messiah is going to come, their experience that this person now is doing things that no one else has done. So therefore, we need to at least take a look at him. Come and see, right? And then the teachings and the experiences that they had with him got them to the point where, of course, Peter said, "Where else are we going to go?" When he asked, "Are you going to leave also?" Because even though he didn't understand what Jesus was saying, they pushed that aside and relied on the information that they actually had. And so then they had to, quote unquote, believe that regardless of what my ears are hearing, my faith isn't moving. That therefore there has to be something else out there for which I have confidence to stay here. Just like Abram had that confidence that even though I'm being told to slay my only, well, he wasn't the only one, he had Ishmael, but the one of promise, that yet it's going to be okay. And what I keep saying is, to me, my understanding is it's foundational based on your understanding, knowledge, and experience of, in this case, God. And you have to know him, because otherwise we could lean to our own understanding and then make suppositions that, well, God wouldn't do this and God wouldn't do that. But we don't know that. That's just our own mind, our own thoughts, concluding that the God that we say we are serving would do this or wouldn't do that.
Interesting. So another thing to add to what you're saying, I think that there is a misuse of the operation in those scriptures in many ways that can be manipulated.
Okay.
All right. So a lot of times faith doesn't net the true, in my mind, true, harmonious faith. A lot of times don't necessarily come out of the event, but a particular mindset and control mechanism. And people will use scriptures a lot of times for control purposes instead of using it for the validity that God was really trying to subscribe to mankind.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Because, yeah, go ahead.
And that's why we have so much trouble with people concluding their understanding of the scripture on concluding, that's not the word I should have used, taking their understanding and then imposing it upon you, and then therefore now expecting you to respond based on their understanding.
100%.
And so, yeah, with that, then that's where we have to have the knowledge. Because in the situation you just described, everybody's putting their foundation is in God. But of course, we know that that level of knowledge, understanding, discernment varies. So even though we're all talking about God and the things of God, we have to be wise enough to understand some are reaching foolish conclusions. Some are reaching conclusions that are not lined up with the one they say their confidence is in. But if we don't know that, then we may start to feel like, well, if this person believes that way, then I guess I'm supposed to believe that way also. So then now they know better than I. And so then now your faith, what you would call it faith, is not really in God. It's in the confidence of the other person's knowledge of God.
100%.
And that's dangerous.
And I think that's a very important point too, because I think, like you said, just a person's expectation or what do they conclude about what they think they know about God. That's where I think that there's a lot of pitfalls for hope and for belief, because I've heard people talk about, maybe not so much like as a testimony, but like maybe kind of saying in passing more so, that when they feel like somebody is going against them or is opposing them for some reason, and they'll respond like, well, God is going to take vengeance on my enemies kind of thing. And that expectation of God is going to come to my defense and take this person out because they're standing against me. And again, right, so because you said like, there can be somebody who has their own conclusion and they share it with somebody else to make you feel, trying like in an effort to try to make you feel and conclude the same thing. but what did they really understand? Because now when you see Jesus on the cross, he's not begging for or praying for God to take vengeance on his enemies. He's saying, forgive them. So now,
Very good.
at least in my mind, right, the way my mind works, that means I'm going back and now looking at, okay, well, the mindset of take vengeance on my enemies, if that's what a person is in it for, that's what they're looking for, what does that really say about them? When the example that Jesus gave was, forgive them for they know not what they do. Right. So expectation plays a big part, because if your expectation is wrong, it can lead you down a wrong path. I know God is going to do something. You don't know that. You don't know if you're not in tuned enough to really know, or haven't been told by God whatever is going to happen, then we shouldn't be as forward as to think, I know God's going to do this, or to let our trust in or belief in God or in the Creator be hinged on what I think is going to happen or what I expect to happen, because your expectations might be wrong. You might be looking for at the wrong thing for inspiration. You might have misunderstood a promise or whatever. Having those kind of things where we're hinging our confidence, our trust, our hope on, I expect this outcome to happen. That's a dangerous state to be in, versus having that mindset of, I trust, and because I trust, whatever happens, I'm going to continue my trust, right? It's not based on things going my way or the way I expect them. It's deeper than just that expectation, right?
Exactly. And, as you were talking, I was thinking of two other instances from the Bible that line up with what you just said. One of them was when I think Jesus sent James and John ahead to get a room. And then I think the way the scripture says, they were denied because their face was set to go to Jerusalem. And we know the understanding was, hey, you all are Jews, we're Samaritans, we don't like each other, we're not renting your room. Cry discrimination, but yes, it was discrimination, right? So then they went back and told Jesus and said, well, should we call down fire? Why? Because our work is just and honorable, and these people are trying to restrict us, so therefore we're justified in having God destroy them. And Jesus had to correct them. There was another instance where they came to Jesus and told him, hey, those guys over there, they're calling out devils in your name, or they're calling out devils and they're not with us. And then Jesus basically said, leave them alone.
Yeah.
If they're not against us, they're for us. But yet our understanding was, in the first case I mentioned, we've been offended because they are resisting us. And then the second was, well, you can only do it when you're with us. And that has a broader understanding, because, even we today, when you get various quote unquote religions, and they've determined their way is the only way. And even if they have if they're 90% right, you cannot nullify the 2% or the 10% or the 50% someone else has and say they're not to be followed, or you can't glean something from them. But yet our own understanding, our own dogmatic actions will basically say, if you're not with us, then you're wrong, and we're the only ones that's right.
That's right.
Wow.
Dangerous mindset. And I want to. I'm gonna leave it.
Go. No, you already started. All right.
I'm gonna put a challenging question out there. Because for the example that you gave, right, they came back to him and said, should we call down fire on them? And his response, we're not going to do that. That's not how we operate. The expectation comes from a story like Elijah, where he called down fire, and people were consumed. Comes from stories like Exodus, so on and so forth. So I encourage the reader to entertain why Jesus took the path that he did. And I'll leave it at that. His response was not to go and look to call down fire. His response was something different. So just encourage the reader and the listener to kind of, ponder that question, right?
No, that's valid.
That's an excellent point. I'm glad you mentioned that, because if they were to look into it, they would get a greater understanding of what this walk is supposed to be about. Okay? Because I've been saying over the past couple of weeks, the Lord's been dealing with me with respect to carnal operation. And I've been explaining that carnal does not mean sinful. It does not always mean sinful. And the fact that we often are carnal in our thoughts and operations, and we don't see it. Okay? And that came to my mind when you said what you said, because as we know, the Old Testament passage, there's a way that seemeth right unto a man.
Right.
Because we use our own logic and knowledge and experiences, but then we line them up in such a way that's not consistent with the one that we say, this is why we're doing this. You know, and that's why people are comfortable doing such ungodly things to other people and feel like they're justified by God.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I think there is a lot of reasons for that. I'm not going to get into all of them, but yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. But I think that fault in
we know
people,
there's a fire there, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's yeah.
No, we're not trying to go at you.
No, I know you're not. I'm just saying it's like when people have that mentality, it comes from somewhere.
Unleash the hound.
They've seen it somewhere before, and because they've seen it somewhere before and be justified, they think, okay, this is the way to be. And I think that the creator that Jesus served would have seen that as the outcome, and that's not what he would have been going for. So
Yeah.
but
That's challenging. What you're saying is very challenging because I don't think most people don't really utilize Jesus's words properly when he says about hungering and thirsting after righteousness. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is valuable when you hear him say that. How long have they been with him and they still wanting to call down fire upon, you know, like
to destroy their enemies. Yep.
And it's like, no. Haven't you been with me when I was on the side of a mount? Haven't you been with me? How long am I supposed to be with you in this regard? And so what I started thinking about as you guys were talking a little bit was Jonah. And I started thinking about, okay, this is some good stuff, man. So I was thinking about faith avoided.
Okay.
For Jonah's, because Jonah was trying to avoid utilizing the opportunity to show faith. Now you talk about someone that hated his enemies. That, you know what I'm saying? Like for real. Like you talking about somebody where he went as far as to purchase a ticket to go farm.
Yeah.
Because he knew what God was going to do. He had the confidence that God was going to deliver. You know what I'm saying? So you talking about faith avoidance. Isn't that interesting? That's what I was just picked that up as you guys were talking. I was just like, man, that's amazing. So you can know that God is more than able, more than capable, because you don't like a particular group. You're not going to go and bless that particular group. Man, that's something.
You're saying a whole lot there.
Yeah. It's interesting. Man.
So-
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
So, and this comes back to a little bit about where I might deviate from the common thought concerning faith, because, and again, this is a word that we see come up a lot because of religion. There's not a lot of modern use of the word faith outside of religion. So with that kind of, being the baseline understanding, if we kind of look at where faith is defined in the Bible as an example, I think that the wrong part of that definition, and this is just me, I'm not saying this is factual, I'm not saying anybody has to change their mentality, I'm just saying when I read it, I kind of come away with a different understanding than I think is the common understanding. So Hebrews defines faith as the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And I think a lot of times we attach faith to the hope for and not seen, as far as in thinking, believing, hoping in some outcome. And I think we miss that faith is actually the other part of those clauses. That faith is the substance and the evidence. And a belief doesn't have a belief in itself, just a thought that I expect something to happen, is not evidence and it's not substance. Substance and evidence is tangible. So when after that definition is given, and then Hebrews goes down the line of by faith this person did this, by faith this person did this, the key is by faith this person acted. And I don't believe faith is just a belief or hope or a thought. I believe that faith is the substance and the evidence of the belief that's there, which means it's not the belief, it's the action that results from that belief. So when it goes down and lists all those people, by faith, this person did this. By faith, this person did this. Faith, I think, is the action that results from belief and not the belief by itself. And that's why I think when Paul was talking about, not Paul, I'm sorry, but, you show me your faith without works and I'll show you my faith by my works. And faith without works is dead because works is action. Faith is the belief that results from, I believe this strongly enough that I'm going to take this step. If I were to tell you that you could win the lottery, and you say, okay, yeah, I believe that. Okay, the lottery ticket is going to cost you everything you have in your savings. Okay, that's kind of steep. You might say, okay, I believe that. You might be able to voice those words, but then if I tell you that the cost or the way that you show faith in what I'm telling you is to put all of your savings on the cost of that ticket, that's going to be the real test of, is faith really there? Because is your faith and your belief high enough? I just kind of misused the word. Is your belief in what I'm telling you significant enough that you're willing to take the action that proves that there's hope and belief there? If it's not action that results from that belief, I don't think it's faith, right? So I think faith is more of an action word and not just belief, hope, or something along those lines, right?
So do you think that, see what you guys think about this, man, because all of us here worked in the automotive industry, right? And so we've seen action plans and different things like that. A lot of times, faith is like you said, substance, right? But that substance, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm saying this, I'm trying. Once again, faith is, for me, is an interesting process. So if you say we're in the automotive industry and there's a development plan, you don't necessarily see the vehicle at the end of the process. What you do is see a bunch of papers at the beginning. You see a bunch of drawings. You see a bunch of intentions. You see expectations. You see the logistical side of things. You look at the planning and different things like that. But the faith that you're talking about is the actual execution, putting things together. So faith has to start somewhere, right? And in order for that faith to actually be the vehicle to get to the end outcome or the end result, there's some key inputs that have to be implied in order for faith to be executed, correct? So what are we missing?
Missing in what?
So, okay, I think I jumped too far.
You good?
I jumped too soon with that question. So once again, when we are in this automotive process, and by the time you get all your resources together, the logistical side, the shipping and receiving, the management side, the materials, different things inside the building, and the process together, the right people getting their hands on it, the robots coming together, and at the end of that line, you have a vehicle driving as the designer intended it to be, right? How come it seems that most of the time, not all, I'm not going to talk in absolutes, that the faith that is a part of that process is not being used, and that vehicle is driving, but it's a Pontiac Aztek instead of
Hey, I owned a Pontiac Aztek. Leave that car alone.
Oh, man. I love it.
Because G said this story one time about the designer of the Aztec came in and looked at it. He said, "That's not what I designed."
There's a long process between the design of something and it going through all the iterations of making it production intent. And yeah, that was the story I heard, that the guy looked at it and at the end of the line and said, "That's not what my concept was."
So what I don't want God to say that to me. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. As you were talking and, incorporating what you said and what Gary said about action.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things that you just mentioned had to do with the components that lead up to the action. Okay.
Beautiful.
Because one thing I was thinking about when you said that was, if you are a company that has public stock, and so then now you have to put reports out there and go to Wall Street, tell them what you're going to do and what's your 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and the statements that these companies make is based on the components. They look at what they have. They have to look at the market. They have to look at a lot of different things in order to say we're taking this action, faith, because we expect this outcome. And the outcome hasn't arrived yet.
It's the not seen part. Yep.
That's the not seen part. But you have confidence. So, or in other words, what is the level of confidence that one has based on their evaluation and knowledge of what they have to work with to say, I am confident, and my confidence is my faith, I'm taking this action. So that's the distinction between, and that's why when you roll it back to God, that's why I'm convinced that when people only have a cursory knowledge of God, they don't seek God, then how can you have faith that is consistent with the one that you don't really know?
Very good, man.
It's not enough to say, I believe in God. You know, most of us would clap their hands and say, good on you, good on you. But with respect, when it comes to God, God is basically telling us, I put knowledge of myself out there. And I expect you to go after that knowledge so that you can make choices and decisions that are indeed your faith. So we need to understand, in the case, just like in the case of the automotive in this or whatever business, if you are saying we expect to go from 35% market share to 65% market share in a 10-year period, well, that could just be a pipe dream. Because based on what the market is, what your competitors are, what you actually have, if you did a proper evaluation, you say there's no way we're going to get there. Matter of fact, we might struggle to keep what we have.
Right.
But yet we're going to present what we say is faith, but then going back to what I said when we first started, that could really be nothing more than just wishful thinking that we call faith.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes I'm convinced we do that with respect to God.
Yeah.
We don't really know him, but we say he can do anything, so therefore we reach a conclusion. God's going to do this, and he's going to reward my faith. But our actions are not based on having good knowledge because we haven't really looked into it. Because a lot of times we're lazy, to be honest.
So
that's another issue altogether.
No, but that was pretty good that you said that. I was thinking about while you guys were talking about this, I think it's very important for us to there's a word that I want to add with the faith and with the relationships that we're talking about and the components you were saying.
Okay.
G was talking about the substance, right? From Hebrews. There's another word I want to add in there is discipline.
Okay.
I think discipline is a valuable word that I think we can include on there. That to me is like the glue. Like discipline is the glue of faith, you know, because it goes right back to what you're saying is the components is in order for this faith that you are deeming that God has told you, do you have the right information and not I don't want to say requirements, but if you have the right information, the data that is the driver behind the motion, you know what I'm saying? Are you disciplined enough to seek out that information, ask the right questions, gathering the right info, gathering the right resources in order to make that substance a happy marriage for
yes.
faith,
So if I hear what you're saying, so the discipline would be, you know, as in that old, you know, line from that, you know, drag that just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts, you know.
Yeah.
In other words, just based on the facts, not on your conclusions or your will or your desire that the facts lead somewhere else. Just the facts. Okay.
Yeah.
And then with that, we need help, or are we evaluating the facts in a proper way?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
And so that's where the discipline comes in, or the lack thereof. And that's why you know, I've said a couple of times now that people can profess faith in God or confidence in God and call it faith by their actions. I'm standing here and I know God's going to do this for me. And they may not realize that it's really wishful thinking.
Wow.
Or conclusions that my God wouldn't do this.
Yeah. Wow.
My God wouldn't let Stephen get stoned when he's professing faith in me.
Yeah.
But he did.
Yeah. He did.
You know,
That's the reality.
Someone say, "Oh, I didn't see that one coming."
Yeah,
You know,
that's so true. That's so true. Hey, they didn't think that they didn't think the Savior was going to be up on a tree. You know what I'm saying? You know, cursed is every man that's going to be on a tree, right? I mean, it's one of those things where I think like now traditionally I almost look at the opposite of how we were taught in many types of ways. Not in a negative way, but just more like evaluating it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's like it kind. For instance, I don't what you brought up about Laban. May the Lord watch me. We actually turned that into a conclusion or a
good thing.
a good thing. But in actuality, if you look at it,
Just read the
It
story.
was not good.
Just read the story. It's like it's that simple.
yeah. It's like man, you know what I'm saying? Because the story itself tell you that there was a toxic relationship between the two, an absolute toxic relationship.
We made that our parting prayer.
Yeah, we made that, man, just like many other things, you know. And so, you know, when you talk about this faith, I think that this my last little point that I wanna share. I think that it was wonderful that you guys brought up the components, the substance. We're talking about the relationships of faith or the relationship building when before choices are made. When you talk about the choices are made, is it you at the end of it, or is it the intent by which God wanted us to operate using His word? Because we all know people, man, we are some dark creatures, and we want to utilize this powerful thing for our own benefit and not the benefit of God and others, you know. And what I want to do, what I would like to do, is one day look at how important openness is tied to faith. Because I think a lot of times what we do is we shut the door on meaningful things, and you don't really understand or operate the way that God really utilized faith to be. You know, a lot of us I'll speak from us, and I think we all come from the same type of background of the churches that we've gone to. They kind of shut the door on many things, where I really believe God is really trying to say, hey, you know, you need to go a little bit further. You know, there's so much potential there, but you just think this is good enough, you know, and I'm like, no, that's not what it is. But that's my last final thought. Anybody else?
Just to back up what you said, I think the biggest proof point of that is Jesus, one of his parting words, you know, greater things than what you've seen me do, will you go on to do. And it's like, we don't see that. So obviously we're missing something. There was something more that his followers were supposed to do after that. And it can be said, and I know I've heard this taught as well, like he was speaking specifically to the ministry of the apostles and them having further reach than his. But I don't know if that's just saying it for my part. I don't know if that's the extent of it. I don't know if that was the only context of that statement. I think it was a more broad context than that. But like you said, I think we're shut off from probing that and exploring that because we're told you can go this far and no further.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And do we accept those limitations? Right.
Ooh. Yeah. You have any last words?
Yes. Going along with what we've already just stated, you know, one of the things I'm focusing on is the lack of growth. Okay. When we talk about the old landmarks, sometimes you hear people talk about that. My fear, my concern is what they're really saying is, let's go back to the way we did it when we were all coming up and we were really, okay. And while that brings good thoughts, we're dealing with a different generation now.
Yeah.
And the generation that experienced that, they're dying off, okay? And there's no growth. And to me, that's the bottom line. When we talk about going back to the old way, we're talking about people that had a level of knowledge at that time. And we shouldn't feel like we're disrespecting them because we see clearer now than they did.
Love it.
But that's one of the things that I think we're fighting against today. If we show that there's something greater than what the people that we respected when we grew up,
Very good.
Essentially, we're saying we have greater insight than our teachers. Is that a bad thing?
Right. Right.
But we feel like, oh no, you can't, this bishop or this pastor, they had it. How dare you assume that you know more than.
Wow.
But growth is part of this process. And our faith has to be founded on this growth, or in other words, this knowledge and information, having a more perfect understanding of the information that's now out there. So it's not that it's a new doctrine or a new religion, but it's a deeper understanding and insight of the things that have been revealed. Nice. So we're not talking about having a new revelation, but I know the way we talk, sometimes it appears that we're trying to bring forth a new revelation, Absolutely. But that's not what's going on. We're talking about having faith that's more in line with the knowledge of God that's been revealed. Mm-hmm. And so with that, we have to be careful to not lean on the old ways, because so many people are comfortable with the old ways.
And that's a great point. And I think that, like you said, we've probably all come across and have seen that at some point in our walk. But I think that, and we all are fathers, and I've had the talk with my kids that because corporate America can be a very competitive and cutthroat place. And I've talked to all my kids, like, you're probably never going to have another situation where a person is going to want you to exceed them. Mm-hmm. And to excel higher and to be on a better trajectory and everything else. But I've told them and explained this to them often enough, hoping that it would let them have enough trust in me to kind of guide them and give them instruction or give them information that they'll know, okay, well, if dad is telling me to do this, and I know that he wants me to do better than he is, if I trust him that he's telling me this to kind of make sure I can excel where he is, I can trust in what he's saying to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that to come back to what you were saying, like, I think that's the true tell. I want my kids to do better than I did. I want them to excel. If I'm here at 25, I want you to be here at 25. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And when you say that and you're serious, I would want anybody that comes after me, if I'm in a church or in any kind of spiritual practice, I would want the people that come 25, 50 years after me to get higher, to get better. I don't expect them to stay locked in. That's an ego thing. If I say you can never go higher than where I've been, you can never learn more than what I've learned. If you're not doing better in 25, 50 years from now, I failed you as a father. Like we tell our kids that if I haven't taught you to do better than I did and learn from my mistakes, I failed you as a father. Mm. And I think the same should be true of spiritual leaders. It shouldn't be this thing of I have to safeguard my legacy. It's not your legacy. Right. You should want people to go on and gain more understanding, get better, get stronger, whatever the case is, as a true measure. Because if you're not doing that, then all you're doing is protecting your ego.
There you go.
Right.
Man.
So
very good.
Yeah.
Man, I actually want to speak on that a little bit further, but I already said my last.
Go ahead, man.
No, I'm good. No, I was just saying that it's like almost like a built-in mechanism for ego, like you said, pride. I never even thought about that. That was pretty good, you know, and that's the reason why there's no growth. Going back to what you were saying about no growth, because people want to hold on to the landmarks. Not saying that the landmarks are bad, but to me, it's supposed to be that visual thing and say, okay, that landmark is there for me to make a move further. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but instead it's don't tell the king they're not wearing any clothes.
Right.
Yeah.
Those landmarks mark the journey. Yeah. They mark the journey. Yes, I'm supposed to be moving forward. If I got to look at how great it was 50 years ago, that means nobody from that time 50 years ago until me now has done anything worth standing on. Absolutely. And saying this is good enough. This is a sign of progress that we can build on this step and go forward. It should be, if we're looking at people from 50 years ago, give them the respect. It's not that we're doing better. It's we're building on what they gave us. We've learned from them, and we're trying to go on to that next stage. Yeah. You know what I mean? But
don't be afraid of the next stage.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Absolutely right.
I remember Jesus said, he said, when I return, will I find faith on the earth? Mm-hmm. And I think that is a key phrase that he was saying, not only a phrase, but a thought that he had in his mind. And was he even talking about the world, or was he actually talking about the church that he died for? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I think, like, if going back to what you're saying, it's like, okay, you haven't developed yourself since then. Right. You know what I mean? What were you doing all this time? You know what I mean? So
one talent, bearing it in the ground. That's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, man.
Oh, we can go on and on with this.
Yeah,
telling you,
I'll
telling
stop. I'll stop.
I'll end with the song quote I've heard about. No, I'm joking.
All right, we're
No
closing.
forward
out,
motion
y'all.
if we're stuck in park.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
We've
That's
been
it,
stuck the
ladies.
past 2,000 years, traded the kingdom of love for a house of fear. That's it.
All right. They tell me I need to go to rehab, but I said no. Come on back.
I love it.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
I love
All right. It's getting late, y'all, and we're getting a little, we're getting tired. So
Good episode
I
today.
really enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it online.
Yes.
And please like, share, subscribe, share it to someone. Hey, let us know how we're doing. Leave us a word that we can talk to, and we really appreciate this this time, and we value it. God bless you, and talk to you later next time. God bless you.